Hi guys, Gareth here and welcome to this Vina Prank production and welcome to my long awaited review of Friday the 13th Part 5, also known as A New Beginning, this film right here. Before we go any further, I will be spoiling some elements of the franchise in general and of course elements of this film. So what I'll try and do is keep it relatively spoiler free until the very end when I'll reveal the biggest twist of the film, so to speak, and then we'll go from there. And while I'm doing that, I may hold something up just to let you guys know the spoilers in this section, and then of course I'll close out the video. So, first and foremost, I'll give you the synopsis of the film and then we'll get into my own personal opinions of the film. So, basically, the synopsis of the film is that Tommy Jarvis, due to the events of the previous film, which was of course Friday the 13th, the final chapter, not so final. In case you didn't know, guys, I do believe the final chapter is the last film which involved the original crew from the first to the third Friday the 13th. And of course, they're ready to put the franchise to bed, which is why the fourth one was called the final chapter. However, Paramount, which I do believe at the time owned the license, didn't want to give the franchise up, and of course, with many horror films back then, they just wanted to churn out sequel after sequel after sequel, and A New Beginning was the first, how can I put this, the first indication of them wanting to do that. They did try some new things with A New Beginning, kind of, which I'll get to in this video. However, let's be honest, all it was again yet another sequel with a franchise in which a big movie studio just wants to keep churning out sequel after sequel. Anyway, that said, Tommy Jarvis, due to the events of the previous film, is being taken to a mental institute. One thing straight off the bat that's a bit strange is, according to A New Beginning, Tommy Jarvis was 12 during the events of a final chapter. Corey Feldman, who played Jason in that film, I'm not sure how old he exactly was, but he looks younger than 12 to me. I could be wrong, but he looks younger than 12. Anyway, despite that plot hole, the other plot hole is that the actor who's playing Tommy Jarvis in this film is a lot older than 12-year-olds. He's actually an adult at this point. I don't think they say how old he actually is, but he's definitely an adult, which means at very least 6 years has passed between young Tommy Jarvis and Tommy Jarvis we see in this film. And the issue with this is, what on earth has been happening to Tommy Jarvis for the last X amount of years? What other institutions did he go to? Did he go carrying with school? There's a lot of unanswered questions with that I would like to know, but hey ho, it's a horror film. Maybe I should just forget about that and not forget about any, insignificant things such as backstory of the characters, which builds character, traits and progression kind of stuff. That it's a horror film. Away with the backstory. We just want to get to the chopping and the gore and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so he's being taken to a mental institute, and due to the events of the last film, or the effects the last film had on him, and probably a lot of other people in the audience, he's not very talkative, very mute, all that kind of stuff. We're then introduced slowly to the members of the other residents of the mental institution. One particular member, called Joey, seems to be a bit of an annoying individual, and is going around offering chocolate bars and all this kind of stuff to different people. He then offers the chocolate bar to the wrong person, an individual called Victor, who then proceeds to hack Joey into pieces. This then prompts the first killing of the film, and then the paramedics come along, clear the body, and that's when the body count rises. That's when we get the first death of this said film. And that's pretty much the plot of the film. Without going to spoiler territory, that's pretty much the synopsis of the film, is that it takes place in a mental institute, and after the first person is killed, not even by Jason Voorhees, we then start getting actual killings by Jason Voorhees. Or do we? Well, before we go any further, I should state at this point, I knew the ending of this film before going into it, because as I've said to my subscribers and my hardcore audience in previous films, I'm a bit of a wuss when it comes to horror films. As a result, I research a lot of stuff when it comes to horror films before I end up watching them. And maybe, unfortunately, I researched a lot about the film, watched a lot of reviews about the film, so I knew the ending. Having said that, knowing the ending, and of course we'll get to that bit later on, the movie makes it extremely obvious about the ending. I think, in my own personal eye, having said that, maybe I'm just seeing those subtle references they make because I knew the ending anyway. So, yeah, the synopsis is very light, the plot is very light. It's a very run-of-the-mills slasher horror film. There's not a lot to do with plot or stuff going around the edges. However, I actually liked this film quite a bit. The pacing of the film was actually pretty decent. The body count kept ticking up. The pace of the film, the frequency of the kills, all kept on a nice click. There's some pretty decent characters, pretty decent acting all around, to be honest. There's not, apart from maybe, I've forgotten his name right now, the individual who plays Tommy Jarvis, most of the acting is pretty okay. I would say Damon and Reggie are two of my personal standouts when it comes to acting performance. But apart from that, everyone put in a solid performance. I can't fault anybody for the performance. Maybe Victor was a bit over the top, but hey ho, he kind of had to be over the top for that character to do what he did. One thing I don't like about the film, and as we'll get towards the spoiler, the big twist, shall we say, at the end, is that it's the senseless killings. A lot of the motives behind the killings are non-existent. Victor killed Joey because he gave him a chocolate bar. And that to me seems a bit far-fetched in my own brain. I know it's supposed to be a nut job, but the movie uses some very cliche misconceptions of mental institutions, that everyone's a bit cuckoo and people kill on the, on the turn of a dime when, or you know what I mean. It's a bit ham-fisted. That's the word I use. It's a bit ham-fisted in the way the kills just keep coming, and there's not a lot of sense behind the killings. The killings themselves, although are relatively decent, they're not the best compared to other horror films, and even in this franchise. Let's just say Tom Savini is very missed in this film, and I do believe the film, or the makers of the film, were going for a lower age rating than the previous film because they wanted a wider audience to see this film. So I do believe they were going for an R rating or even maybe a PG-13 rating, although there are a lot of tits and boobs in this film, so I don't know, and there's a lot of sex in the film and drug use, so I'm not sure. I'm guessing that took it to an R rating. Given the previous films were going for R ratings, and yet when they were submitted to the MSRB, they were MSRB? Nope, that's the ESRB. I've forgotten what the American Rating Board is. I just call it the American Rating Board. When they were submitted to the American Rating Board, they were all given X ratings until they were cut down to a R rating. I do believe this was the first film we didn't need cutting down to a R rating, and it shows. Bloody hell does it show. The kills are tame in comparison to previous films. Having said that, they are swift, they are effective, they get the job done at the end of the day. So, I can't make any complaints there. The overall setting, the overall, pace of the film, can't really fault much of the film. As I said, the biggest flaw to me was, of course, the motive behind the killings. And to get to that part, we need to get to the spoiler of the film. So I'm going to hold up the back of this and talk about the big spoiler of the film. If you don't wish to hear the spoiler, then tune off while I hold this up, and then we'll get to it. So we'll hold this up now, give you a minute to mute the video, and we'll carry on. So the spoiler in the video is that it's not Jason Voorhees doing the killing. It's actually Roy, who happens to be the father of Joey, who's chopped down at Victor at the beginning. The issue I have with this is that supposedly it fills Roy with enough vengeance and rage, I suppose, to go after all the other people in the film, even people who had nothing to do with Joey's death. I understand him going after people in the nut house, but he went after Pam, he went after Reggie, and there's no reason in my eye for him to go after those people. He seemed to kill people just with reckless abandon when he didn't need to. But hey ho, that's how things get on. Welcome back, those who muted the video. One other thing I'll say about this film, it very much had echoes of the first film, down to the point where one of the characters is called Pam. Now, I don't know if that's deliberate, but of course you know that Pamela Voorhees is of course a character in the first film, and there's a character in here called Pam, and Jason Voorhees and Pam go at it one-on-one. I don't know if that's meant to be a metaphor for the first film. I don't know, but I wouldn't put it past the makers to have, done this. As I said, there are some glaring plot holes in this film. However, I enjoyed the film quite thoroughly, I must say. I've said this 1,000 times in this review. The pacing was solid, the kills were good for what they were. The film was entertaining. I don't actually regret watching it. And to be honest, if I wasn't about to go and watch a completely different film now, I'd quite happily stick on the next Friday the 13th film, which happens to be Jason Lives, and that will of course be the next review I do in the Friday the 13th franchise. The next review I'm about to do, as of this video, is Scream. Scream is one of those films I haven't seen anything about, because of course it has one of the biggest twists in movie history. Therefore, I haven't looked up anything about it, and I'm going in cold. So, anyway, with that said, you may want to know my score for New Beginning. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. I think that, as I said, the plot is just your bog standard slasher horror film, but I think the film does enough around the edges to make it interesting watch. It doesn't quite, it's not, above average, I wouldn't say. Making a 4, and of course a 5 would mean it's almost perfect. Nothing's perfect, but you know what I mean. So I think a 3 is a solid score for this film. Anyway, guys, if you could for me, leave me a like, a dislike on this video. Subscribe, it's big, it's red, it's free. If you wish to have a discussion with me or somebody else, pop a comment down to the comment section down below. As I do like to say, YouTube is a social media platform. Let's make it social, let's take it back from the trolls, and if you wish to stay up to date with what I do, then please hit the bell icon, make sure the quotations are around it, and you receive a notification to your device of choice every time I upload a video. And as always, guys, please take care, and until next time, enjoy I got that back to front. Anyway, guys, you know the spiel by now. Enjoy the rest of your day. Ta-ra.